Yep, that's right. We're watching another Act-Man video, and yep, that's right. It's another one that's kind of about piracy, probably. It seems like it would be. Ubisoft is right. We shouldn't own video games. Really seems like he's being sarcastic, and it's about unconventionally acquiring video games because of garbage companies being garbage. Anyway, I'm curious. Let's check it out.
Do you like owning things? Do you enjoy having possessions? I mean, I do. I love capitalism. It's such a simple yet genius idea.
Based.
You work to earn money, and then you use that money to buy things, and then you own those things and can do whatever you want with them. It's genius. Why didn't Karl Marx think of this? Now, it might be
The only thing that you can't do with it is copy it and sell the copies. Anything that you own, pretty much.
a bit confusing for some people. You know, quantum mechanics is also confusing, but it truly sounds like a great deal to me. Hold on, Actman, you say. I'm a senior executive at a multi-billion-dollar video game publishing company, and I
No, you're not. You can't fool me, Mr. Actman.
don't have enough money. What do I do? Oh, well, in that case, you should just do what Ubisoft is doing and simply delete people's digital possessions that they paid for and,
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about this. I've never played The Crew, but I am a huge racing fan, and I'm just a huge video game fan. And even if, like, nobody really cares about this situation, except for people who are worried about the future of the video game industry, and people who played The Crew, which are also people who are worried about the future of the video game industry. Because if we allow this to happen, it's going to happen more and more. And eventually it's going to be one of gaming's greatest of all time that it's going to happen to. Where something that's probably not released yet, that's just 10 out of 10 amazing, and then they just pull it. Well, they kind of did that with Overwatch, I guess. I disagree that that was a 10 out of 10, but they completely killed Overwatch and just reworked it and made Overwatch 2.
just tell them to go fuck themselves. What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here. And today, let's talk about video game ownership and why this incredibly straightforward concept of paying for something and owning it is so complicated these days. Ubisoft doubles down. Buying digital games does not grant players any rights to, quote, unlimited access.
Which just means that you're long-term renting.
Oh, man. You will own nothing and be happy. Just stop owning things.
Oh yeah, if I own nothing, I probably am gonna be happy. Because I'm just gonna have the copies of everything that I don't own and do what I want with them, and they can't say or do anything about it because they're not even gonna know.
That's a concerning headline if I've ever read one. What the heck is this all about? Well, near the end of 2024, you may have heard about some niche racing game called The Crew, released back in 2014. And the reason this seemingly innocuous game was making headlines is because Ubisoft, the publisher, had decided to literally delete digital copies of the game from users' accounts.
And not refund them.
It's such a bizarre thing to do. It's more weird than Nintendo being like, hey, here's the Mario Superstars, but it's only available for a year to buy. Like, at least that's a limited time purchase, but like people paid for this game and now you're taking access away. Now, to be fair, The Crew was an online only game, and naturally these have a limited shelf life. Remember MAG? I do, barely.
I think that if you're gonna shut down an online only game, that you should release the servers. You should release the whole game for everybody to do what they want with for free. I would. But I'm also not going to be making games just to make money. I'd be doing it for the passion, which I am doing right now. I am working on a game. It might take me years to complete, and I'm not going to release any information about it other than the fact that I'm making one.
Regrettable as it is, I think most gamers understand that online services, especially for older games or older consoles, aren't going to be around forever. That's fair, but to go a step further and manually delete this game from people's accounts is wild. That's shady business. I don't know why you would do that, except to like prevent people from modding it or accessing the files.
No, why they did it is because they couldn't make money off of it anymore if they released it to everybody to just play. So they shut it down. They don't want anybody else making money off of it. If they can't make money off of it, nobody can.
Really playing it ever again When the publisher decided to shut down the servers, the game became inaccessible to those who had purchased it in both physical and digital form. Although the community had made efforts to keep the game alive as much as possible, the big surprise came when Ubisoft deleted the digital copies. This led to a group of users filing a lawsuit in early November 2024.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, that's really bad. And they argued a bunch of stupid shit that was immediately thrown out because it was stupid. It was something to do with like gift codes can't expire, something like that. And they set the expiration date to like 2099 or some crazy number.
An actual lawsuit was filed for this. People got so pissed off. I know, I hadn't heard of the crew prior to this either. But for some people, like, they have their favorite game and they don't want to change, and they'll put thousands of hours into it, no matter how old it is, no matter what new games come out. Some people just have their mind set, you know?
I think I've probably put in about 50 hours into Ratchet and Clank so far in my gaming channel. Link down there in the description. I just easily put 150 hours into Oblivion, the original one. I'm about to be playing the Oblivion Remastered on my gaming channel. Link down there in the description.
You know what I mean? And this is an example where, like, yeah, just make it playable for them in some way so you can avoid this whole fiasco. But no, you don't own this game. You bought it in 2014. Sorry, we're revoking your access. Ubisoft has been hit with a lawsuit accusing them of misleading users about the fact that they had a revocable license. That's the crux of the issue, right? The plaintiffs, who purchased the game themselves, claim that Ubisoft deceived players who thought they were buying a game when instead they were only getting a license to it, even when acquiring a physical copy.
Yeah, when people argue like, oh, well, you never owned your games, you've always owned a license. That argument is the worst. That is the stupidest argument. Because no, I do own this copy of it. I can do what I want with it. I can distribute it if I want to. Not mass distribution, and I can't charge money for it, which I think is dumb, kinda. You can't make copies and distribute those. You can distribute your own one single copy. Like, say, I own a game on disc, and I want to sell it to my friend for like 10 bucks. I can do that. I can let him borrow it if I don't want to sell it to him. You should be able to do that with digital copies too, which you can if you get games off of GOG. Just put it on a drive and let your friend borrow it. You can even sell them that original file. You're not allowed to copy it though, which, you know, I get that. I think you're allowed to copy it, you're just not allowed to sell the copy.
Additionally, they proposed that Ubisoft falsely represented the idea that the software's files were in its physical discs. So this happened back in 2014, and that's where we come to today, where Ubisoft is doubling down on this idea that, oh, you purchased this thing over a decade ago? Sorry, we can just revoke your access. And that sets a shocking precedent
That's another strike against Ubisoft, a dying company.
For any Ubisoft title in the future, regardless of if it's online only or not. And here's where I stand, right? If you're Ubisoft and you got this small group of people that care this much about an old game, just let them fucking play it. Like, find a way. Why risk turning this into a massive PR scandal when you are Ubisoft and you already have enough of those going on right now?
So that they can re-release it again and get everybody who used to play it, who can't play it anymore, to buy it. And they will. They'll all buy it. And they can basically resell a game a second time. Maybe a third time if they shut it down 10 years after a new one releases. But just imagine, you get a game like Assassin's Creed Shadows. Let's say Assassin's Creed Shadows, only 10% of the game is on the disc. And you have to download 90% of the rest of the game. But if they shut down the servers, you won't be able to get that 90% of the game. And your game will just be useless. It won't work. That is the future. Not that these online-only experiences like The Crew, you won't be able to play anymore, or games like World of Warcraft, you won't be able to play anymore. No, these single-player action games and things like that won't be able to be played anymore. Because the servers to download the game files will be shut down. Indiana Jones will be unplayable because not all the game is on the disc. Cyberpunk 2077 will be unplayable. Well, you'll be playing the original shitty version. If you have the original copy of it. If they re-release it like the complete edition or something, I'm sure that it'll be like the actual full game. Maybe even not on disc though. Eventually, all these digital games, the servers will be shut down.
It comes at a really bad time because, I don't know about you, but it seems like big corporations in the world's global economy has been shifting towards this like subscription service. Companies don't want you to own anything. They don't want you to own DVDs. They don't want you to own movies. They want you to rent everything. So you have temporary access and you become reliant on paying that monthly fee to have access to the things you want. But you know what? If buying isn't owning, then pirating isn't stealing.
True, friend, true. If there's like a new movie or something that I really, really want to watch, but it's not on any of the streaming services, or it's on like one that I happen to not have, guess what? Guess what?
Now let me give you something to compare this with, right? So, I'm about to say something good about EA. I know. Crazy times. See, back in 2002, there was this fucking amazing RTS
I already know what he's gonna be talking about. He's talking about CNC, boy.
FPS hybrid game that came out called Command & Conquer Renegade. It's a shooter unlike any game you have ever played, trust me. Totally unique, had a kick-ass multiplayer.
I absolutely love this game, and I got back into it whenever this situation happened.
Servers were live on GameSpy for quite a while, but as with all good things, it inevitably came to an end and the servers were shut down. But still, many hardcore fans remained because no other FPS game is quite like Command & Conquer Renegade. And this small group of fans took it upon themselves to create a sort of spiritual successor to Renegade called Renegade X. It is totally free, has been supported and updated for over a decade, and expands on the original vision far beyond what I think anybody expected.
Underrated game, great game, fire game, everybody should play it.
The developers behind Renegade X at Totem Arts make a total of $0 from this game. They have not only preserved the multiplayer of an old classic that would have died out and been totally forgotten, they've added a ton of content to it. And EA, despite being within their full legal rights to DMCA the fuck out of Renegade X, they instead have given Totem Arts their blessing to keep updating this game. Nobody's making money from it. It's just for the love of the game. This mod is EA approved. And you know, we've shit on EA a lot over the years.
That's great marketing. I gotta hand it to them. If they did stuff like that all the time, they would look good to the people again. Also, if they took gambling and gross monetization out of children's games, I'd love that. Everybody would love them for that. They stopped trying to make everything a live service like Ubisoft does. But if they just kept like letting people remake their old games that they're not going to touch, that they don't want anything to do with, that they know they probably aren't going to make any money off of, no plans for the future, and they just let people do stuff they want, that looks amazing. I love that. Keep doing that, EA.
But gotta give credit where credit is due. That's really cool. Do you think Nintendo would do something like that? No, Nintendo doesn't even host fucking Smash Melee tournaments. They shut that shit down religiously. Examples like Renegade X should not be the exception to the rule. They should be the standard, right? If Ubisoft isn't gonna sell the crew, if they're not gonna support it, if they don't give a fuck about it, then give it to the fans.
Yeah, you know what's gonna happen instead? An indie developer is gonna come along and make another one. And then there goes all of your hype for possibly a remake or another crew game. They're just gonna steal your thunder. You gonna let them steal your thunder? Make another one or re-release this one again for free or something. Let people do what they want with it. If you're not gonna do anything with it.
It's been over a decade. If there's people that still care about it, who gives a fuck? This doesn't seem like a copyright issue if you come to an agreement, right? Like if they don't enforce their copyright, they lose the copyright. But it doesn't seem like it's a copyright issue at all. It just seems like part of some new policy where Ubisoft wants to have the power to decide what games you own and what games you don't. Ubisoft reminds us of a sad reality about video games. Boy, you can say that again. They have responded to the lawsuit filed by California gamers who claim that the French company's actions, quote, violate the state's consumer protection laws. Now, I don't know how to begin unpacking video game law, let alone international video game law.
And I don't even care. I really don't. Just stop being a garbage company. Eventually, this is all going to catch up to them, and it's starting to.
But you go, King. However, Ubisoft failed to dismiss the case, with its lawyers arguing that there is no reason for gamers to believe that they had unfettered ownership rights in the game.
They're saying, like, no, you don't own the game. We own the game. No, you own the IP. We own the copies.
They bought it. They bought it, though. This isn't like World of Warcraft where even back in the day, everybody knew and understood, yeah, I'm paying for a subscription to the game. This just seems like Ubisoft making a mountain out of a molehill, and it sets a very strange and shocking precedent for the future.
World of Warcraft also let people play the old servers, well, play the old games on third-party servers for a while. They tried to shut that whole thing down. When they realized they couldn't, you know what they did? They just released the old World of Warcraft again. WoW Classic. That's what you should do. Just call it the Crew Classic and just open it up. If you have it on storefronts, even if you have it free to everybody, people will get it. People will pay for it so they can have the copy in their library. A lot of people will get it for free. But who cares, man? It's a game you're not doing anything with. Unless you're planning on to re-release it in like 6 years. Resell it as the remastered The Crew.
Right? What, like, if they could just revoke your access at any time, like, why the fuck would you buy a game from them? Ubisoft continues to say,
it's gonna be really different whenever you're renting games off of Game Pass and there's just these live service games that you can't even purchase. Or you could purchase, but like games that, imagine that, games you can't even purchase are gonna be on services like Game Pass only, like exclusive. And eventually they'll just get ripped. And they will actually be like, well, you actually didn't own this. You only rented it. You actually rented it because you paid for Game Pass. You didn't pay for access to this game. So we're just taking it off of Game Pass. So you can't play it anymore. That's the future that we're looking forward to. Not in a good way looking forward to. We're just looking forward and we're seeing it.
frustrated with Ubisoft's recent decision to retire the game following a notice period delineated on the product's packaging, plaintiffs apply a kitchen sink approach on behalf of a putative case of nationwide customers, alleging 8 cases of action including violations of California's false advertising law, unfair competition, and Consumer Legal Remedies Act, as well as common law fraud and breach of warranty claims. The case is still ongoing, however. In March, the plaintiffs added an addendum with new allegations against the company, stating that Ubisoft is violating rules regarding the sale of gift certificates, which they argue could be considered the crew's currency. Since gift cards cannot expire in California, the plaintiffs argue that when the crew closed, so did the in-game credit. Ubisoft now has until April 29th to respond.
There was something about the game codes not expiring until 2099 also, and when you go and use the game code for the crew, that it doesn't work, that the crew doesn't exist, and that technically breaks California law. That's what I heard from somewhere else.
Now at this point, you might be losing the argument if you're stooped down to like gift cards. This is just my impression of things, but it seems like the fans or the plaintiffs in this case just want to fucking play the game however they can. They're probably rightfully pissed off that the game has been torn away from them. And at the same time, it seems like Ubisoft is taking this hyper legal approach when going the route of EA and Renegade X would probably satisfy everyone just fine.
And it wouldn't look bad on them. Actually, it would make them look better. They might take a hit on it. They might take a little bit of a loss because they won't be able to re-release it. They still will be able to re-release it as like a remaster or a remake. But they just won't be able to make money if they release it to everybody. They gotta figure that out, how they can squeeze the sense out of people.
I don't understand what's so hard about, like, I don't know, allowing these people to mod the game, make their own private servers. Fuck it, why
Money! Money is the problem. They can't make money.
not? The reason this is a story and not some random game just being shut down that nobody cares about is the implication, right? If they pull the plug on servers for old games like this, even for people who paid full price, it's like they just bought a license They didn't buy the game, which is just renting with a couple extra steps. And if you put yourself in the business mindset, you would understand why, if you're Ubisoft, you would want to kind of crack down on video game ownership, right? Because buying a game, that's just one purchase. And then, well, if you give players complete access to mod it, then maybe they won't buy your next game. Yeah, talk to Valve about that one. Talk to Valve. They've dealt with that once or twice. Really, it just seems like this issue boils down to control. By controlling and selling licenses, they can revoke access anytime, prevent you from reselling the game, trading it in, doing whatever, prevent you from owning it, even if it's an always online game. Like, Microsoft may have shut down the OG Xbox Live servers and the 360 servers, but correct me if I'm wrong, you can still hook up your OG Xboxes with your boys and play Halo 2 on a LAN. You can do the same with 360 with.
I'm pretty sure that you can hook up to third-party servers and still play it online.
Halo 3, to my knowledge. And even if you don't want to go through all those hoops, well, MCC is a pretty cheap alternative. So if you're not going to offer...
That's what they're trying to do, but they haven't gotten to that level yet. They want to make a Crew 1 and Crew 2 bundle, like the Crew collection. They just haven't got to that point yet. They want to sell it again.
An alternative, then that is a problem. Then we get into pirating territory. I don't know, it might also be part of this trend of remakes, remasters, and re-releases where companies don't want to make new games. They just want to, resell you 10, 15, 20-year-old games again. There's a lot of weeds in this issue, but I hope I've carved a small path to lead you to the oasis.
And the oasis does not involve Ubisoft. Don't buy Ubisoft games because they can't be trusted. You probably won't be able to play your newer Ubisoft games 10 years from now because there's not going to be any way to download the patches, or there's not going to be a way to download the whole fucking game.
In conclusion, Ubisoft, come on, dog. Just let these people play the game, figure out some way, let them have mod access. Nobody gives a fuck about the crew except a small handful of people. Why are you litigating?
I give a fuck, and I've never even played it. I care because this sets bad precedent for the future. If we don't do something about this, they'll do it in another game, and another game, and another game, and eventually it'll be every game. And they'll just revoke access because they don't want you to play their old games anymore because their new games are better. That's what they want you to think. That's what they want you to believe. So you'll buy their new games when they launch at full price. Everybody. All 9 billion people, or however many people are on Earth.
Such a meaningless issue unless you want this to become a precedent. If you're just going to delete the game forever, why not let somebody else do something with it? As long as they don't make money, should be fine. And I've never said this before, but Ubisoft, you should do what EA is doing with Renegade X. But what do you think? Do you hate owning things? Are you going to purchase a game and then 10 years later realize you don't actually own it?
This is why I get retro games that I know are already there forever and are going to be there forever. And I buy indie games because they're basically marketed the same way that retro games are. You get it and you keep it and you can do what you want with it pretty much. And they're cheap. That's all I got for today's video. I got Ackman linked down there in the description. I've also got a gaming channel. If you want to buy a t-shirt, got that link down there in the description. I'd really appreciate that, man. Those are my own designs. I worked really hard on them. I'm out!